This week's podcast is going to be a great one for all you people out there that ever want to be an S&C coach, want to know what happens, want to know how to do it. We've got one of the best S&C coaches from both on the field and credentialed. Don Singe, how are you, mate?
I'm very good, thanks, Greg. How are you, buddy?
Good, mate. Good to see the boys going well this year.
Yeah, look,
You're a funny joke. I shouldn't have said that.
So, I've always known as an entertainer you like to open up with a bit of a funny, so I'll give you that one. But I'll be speaking about the width of your forehead as we go further into this conversation. They're going all right, Greg. They're going all right.
So let's rip in.
Welcome to the Body Science Podcast, bringing you everything you need, want and should know about health, fitness, nutrition and training. As always, the information contained in this podcast is for the information purposes only and is not designed to diagnose or be prescriptive to treat, prevent or manage any injury, disease or other health-related condition.
This podcast is brought to you by Hydroxy Burn Shred. Get in the fat burning zone, both physically and mentally, with this potent combination of thermogenic fat burners and mood-boosting nootropic ingredients. Scientifically designed to help you reach your weight loss goals, destroy stubborn fat cells, speed metabolism, boost energy, and improve your mood. With an industry-leading 4 grams of acetyl L-carnitine plus green tea extract guarana and hydroxycitric acid, Hydroxy Burn Shred will take your training and weight loss journey to a whole new level.
Welcome to Body Science HQ, the world of fit, happy and healthy. And this week, I'm going to add in there, we've got the guru on, Donny Singe. Donny has been with the Body Science family since 2005, mate?
Yeah, 2005.
Yep. You've been around forever. I'm a lucky man because not only from a football perspective, he's told me what I'm doing wrong every year since then too, as a sports nutrition brand. Donny's one of our go-tos. He's one of the people we talk to when we really know what we need to do in our brand. Mate, I'm just so happy that you could come on today and we can share your story on. There's a lot of conjecture in with COVID, everyone's turned to online and we're talking more on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. And there's a lot of negativity around S&C coaches at the moment, mate. Like it's been the dream job for you, hasn't it?
Oh, look, it has been the dream job. It's the kind of job you got to work out all the time and you've always got to develop and grow. So I think a bit of that negativity that's come around it is an actual legitimate sort of inability to break into that market for some for some of the graduates and for some of the people working in the industry. But yeah, mate, it's like every other industry out there in the world right now. It's there's a way to get into things and there's a way to do it well and there's a way to get longevity and stay there, and that's what you've got to learn how to do. And I'm an example, one of many, but I am an example of somebody. That's all I've done all my life, and hopefully my life will go for a little bit longer. And I'll be able to do it a bit more.
Mate, you've had some real highs and some lows as an S&C coach too, haven't you? Like you've got the ring, the 2007 grand final NRL. That's one of your big ones.
You know what? I'm going to tell you what. You and I had a little conversation just about sport knowledge here. So
let me just up then. Was it not 2007? When was it?
2007. I copped a hiding, and that one put me into depression. Oh. And then 2008 we won, and 2011 we won.
Oh, that's right. You made the grand final in then, didn't you?
Yeah. We played Storm, and Storm schooled us in what it takes to get all the way through a season and then finish on the big day. We squared up the next year big time.
Nice. Well, let's talk about 2007. What was that like as a coach to take someone all the way? And how do you bring men back from that? Because what a lot of people probably don't understand is in your role, it's not just you getting guys lifting shit and doing a whole lot of exercises. It's a way bigger role, isn't it?
Yeah, look, that's a great way to open up, Greg, because at the beginning, as I came into NRL, there was Des, then there were 2 coaches, then there was me.
Yep.
And as time went, that crew grew. So at the very start, we did have a limited resource, but all clubs did. And what we did in 2003, we took over in 2003, and then we just hammered and built and grew. You guys came on 2005 on the back of our second season, kept working on programming, looking around, seeing what other clubs were doing, in particular Storm in the terms of performance space, kept pushing along, changing over staff, changing over players, and we were able to get there in 2007. And the really interesting thing for me was we got there, and I'll admit to this day, I wasn't 100% certain what my department had done to get us there. That's on that day. And you'll see how that evolves, because what would happen is we lost that grand final, and geez, I got to tell you, I can remember quite clearly, 4 or 5 months later, just as the preseason was starting and we're going in, and my wife saying to me, "You got to get over this, or you're going to move move out.
Stronger words never said.
I was in such a bad place over that. It was just, that was probably in my career, my highlight and my low light all in one go, getting there. And in a sense, to me, looking back now, it was not a failure, but to me at time, it was a hole, and it was a place, and the difference was that in 2008, on the day that we got to that second grand final and we were about to play Storm, I actually knew how we got there, what we had done. And that was the biggest significant difference for me between the two grand finals. And I'm not talking about winning it or anything like that. I'm talking about me thinking, yes, we did that. Yes, we did that. That's how we got to there. That's what we did. Completely different jumping in.
And Des is a massive fan of you going down those paths, isn't he? Like he's always looking for that. And it must be, like I've got Nathan as a partner. He's always go, not good enough. What can we do better? What can we do better? What can we do better? And Des is very similar, isn't he?
Oh, look, absolutely. Look, Des is, he's intuitive but he's just so innovative. He's innovative to such an extent that you just want to kill him. It's like, well, how can I make that better? If the guy could for some reason, invent trousers with 3 legs, for whatever reason, he'd do it. He just finds a reason for something, has a look at something, wants it pulled apart. But I'll give him one plug and one plug only, one good one. And this is it, is that I believe that I've grown and developed and been successful as a strength and conditioning coach, become performance coach, because that guy, he's never ever looked at me and said, why don't you know that? He's always looked at me and said, oh, go and find out about that.
Yeah, nice.
And that is the fundamental difference between, people who take charge of other people or who are in charge of organization and growth. And that's what he's done for me. And I encourage my staff to do that. Yeah, very, very big on growth and lifelong learning.
Because you've shared a few clubs together too, haven't you? It's not just been.
Well, actually only the two, because in 2011, after we won the second premiership, Des went to the Bulldogs.
Yep.
I stayed with Jeff Tuvey.
Yep.
And then I stayed there until 2015, and Jeff and I and the staff were fortunate enough to get to another grand final. And then sort of the wheels fell off a little bit. The club wanted to go in a different direction. Jeff went, I went. I ended up going to the Bulldogs for 2 years with Des. Yep. And then and now we've ended up back here at Manly.
Nice. So, mate, just what's the difference between while we're talking about at club level, before we get in and dig into you in a deep way, what's the difference between your role for Manly or the Doggies versus the New Zealand national side or the Maori side?
Yeah, look, here's the thing, the season is about accumulated efforts and getting periodizations perfect and well, not perfect, but getting them effective, working your way. You have this big amount of time, and then you've got games every week, and then you're getting these athletes right, and then making sure you're getting them all the way down to the most competitive they can be, and then into the finals. The difference is when you go into an international side or you go into an origin side or something, you're actually getting the cream of the crop. They're already all their strength and conditioning coaches and performance coaches. They've made those men. Yep. Those men are great footballers, coming out of good clubs with great systems in them. So you're almost like a caretaker. So you come in, and your job as a head of performance is to contain those men, bring them together, make sure that everybody's getting exactly the right exposures to the type of training and the type of stimulus that they get in clubland, but everything's done a little bit more intensity and a little bit more speed, because you've got this higher group, that has a higher set of skills and fitness amongst them right across the board. Yep. So when you go into an international or into one of those sides, our representative sides, you really are just fine tuning and tinkering and making sure that every one of those players gets to the end of the week or end of those 2 weeks to play that game at their best.
Mate, that's awesome. So, Donny, from a perspective for us people out there that have never worked in that S&C world, I know you run in that head of performance capacity, but I'll use S&C just so people understand what we're talking about. So you get a team like in the New Zealand national team or New Zealand Maori team, and you've got all these highly tuned players. Do you share much data between the other S&C coaches when they're coming in, or is it more the athletes tell you where they're at? How does it work for us that don't know?
Yeah, look, nowadays, absolutely, the data and the information and the medical and every nuance about that athlete is shared. Yep. And it's shared because we all agree that the athlete comes first, and that athlete has come to you to perform.
That's awesome.
One of the big things that people probably forget about is that when we send a player to a representative side, then we demand that player comes back in top condition, and also with the exception of an unfortunate collision injury in a match, comes back with no soft tissue injuries or any as such. So information is shared formally between the S&C, the rehab trainers, the physiotherapists, and the heads of performance and the sports science of each club that sends the player to the representative team. And that representative team also has a very comprehensive and skilled coaching crew who take that information and then apply it through the week.
Nice. So, do you guys report back to the clubs at the end of? Sometimes
you'll get your report daily from training loads and sessions, so that you can have a look over it and you can just have the confidence to know that your athlete is within their ranges. And other times you'll definitely get game data, and you'll definitely get reports, medical reports, as soon as they come off the back of the game. That's respectful to both the athlete and to the clubs that release the athlete.
Nice. So, mate, let's not muck around. Let's talk about the Donny story. Like, how did it happen? Where did you first think, gee, I want to get into S&C and I definitely want to be the head of performance one day? Like, how did that start?
That's that is the evolution that most S&C coaches would hope occurs for them.
Yep.
And I was very fortunate in that did happen. So, mate, everybody, anybody who knows me back there in Dunedin, where I was raised, I was born in a place called Porirua.
I love the New Zealand names.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's a well-known name too, that Porirua. But came out of there and was raised down in Otago in Dunedin. I was shit at school. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I really believe that in terms of education and especially the way education is today, I just really believe that sometimes people just aren't ready for whatever reason, whether you think it's a lack of intelligence focus, whatever it is. But I obviously wasn't ready because I wasn't that attentive at school as such. However, when I say that, I was shit at school, but I wasn't a shit at school, and there's a difference.
Yeah, massive difference. Massive difference. I was
still learning, and I was still doing the things that I wanted to do. So I got through school, went into the military, went into the New Zealand Navy, and that's where I really cut my teeth as somebody who learned and understood what leadership was, definitely what work ethic, accountability, and duty was, and that was that to me was a real turning point in my life in terms of how I applied myself to things. So that was a lot about the systems and what the military was back then, but also about the type of people that I associated with. And then, strangely enough, you always come across different characters in any walk of life, so you have to learn how to deal with those characters. And not to sound like some old salty dit there, but there were some hard characters in the military back in the early 80s when I joined. I was fortunate; all my family, all the men in my family have all served in the military, and so I already had 3 brothers before me in there, and one of them would go on to do 22 or so years.
Wow.
In there. But anyway, so I went in there, and then one day I really just thought there's got to be something more here. So I thought I want to have a crack at Civvy Street. And the interesting thing was, Greg, back in those days, when you signed, you signed for 20 years.
Wow.
So I was only just out of 17, and you signed for 20 years. Now I wanted to leave. Yeah. So they have this form called a 717. Well, I think it might still be that. I don't know. The modern sailors might be having a laugh about that now. But anyway, so what you had to do, and you had to give a reason why you wanted to leave. And I like to think now that I know for a fact I must have been a bit ahead of my mates who wanted to get out too, because some of them wrote dissatisfied, or they weren't happy and they wanted to get out on Civvy Street. They'd had enough.
Yep.
Whereas I went the other way. I wrote a letter to the CO, my commanding officer, and I said, I've become a man here. I've learned so much. I'm more than what I was when I came in. I want to see if I can survive outside with being who I am now.
Man, I love that.
Or maybe it was because they wanted me to leave. But whatever it was, they signed it, and out I came. And so I had a lovely girlfriend then who, luckily for her, she became my wife and still is. Yeah, on good days she likes to admit that, and other days she doesn't mention me. But we ended up going over to the UK and moving around, and I got into a whole lot of different bits of work just in the early year or so that I was out of the military. But I kept getting drawn back, roles of leadership or roles of I just couldn't quite shake it. And because I was also being young and in the military, I had plenty of energy about me. So it was my wife wife who actually said to me, you know, how are you going to contain that energy? Because drinking and being a clown is not containing your energy. And those of us in our 50s and that now are still getting told that. But so anyway, what I did was I was always into training, always fit. I was always following that path, and I managed to get into courses and educate myself around that space when I was in the UK. And I actually started working in a form of personal training, which it was, but it wasn't a profession then. People started paying me to help them with their training.
Yeah, no.
And I had no idea what I was doing. I'll probably get sued now once they all see this. So there he is there limping around in their building.
That's all hip.
But worked all the way through that, Greg, and then went and formalised my education back in New Zealand, got into the aerobic scene. Yes, I wore those tights. Jeez, I look fantastic.
Any pictures? You got to can we get some pictures below this? Because there's a few players who'd like to see that, I reckon. Yeah.
But, you know, I went through that professional aerobic scene, got into S&C, got into exercise, got into gyms, worked the floors. You know what? I know it sounds pretty egotistical, but I had personality, and that really opened a lot of doors for me, and that really helped me build a reputation and build clients and get connections. And then as I went through that process, I came to the attention of sporting bodies and rugby clubs and fighters and all sorts of people who thought, I want to go and train with that guy. I went on to go to UTS, the university. I learnt so much there. I started being contracted to professional sports and tennis, rugby league, rugby union. Next thing you know, I'm being introduced to Des Hasler. You know, he likes that I'm just a fraction less mad than him, and the career took off. So just to sum that quickly up, so I went personal training, working the gym floor, learning all my trade, learning all my skills, working with teams, learning how to deal with big groups, learning how to move groups. My logistical skills were excellent. I worked in Japan a lot, so I was developing skills all the time. Some jobs were paid. The ones that really kicked me off weren't.
Yeah, that's an interesting point then. Can we touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, there's a lot of conjecture out there about people not being paid for personal exertion, but there is also a time and a place to get your feet wet, isn't there? Like, you know, like I work for Body Science, so you don't work for Body Science unless you got a PD and a job and you get paid. But we're also not a reason that people are leaving school and doing university degrees. Like, people are doing university degrees to get into elite sport. Like, that is the ultimate end game. And clubs have budget, you know, coaching divisions have budgets. Yeah. So what would you say to students, you know, leaving school right now? Like, unless you're the top 1%, get in and do some time, get a job, but work out where you want to be.
I really believe it's a double-edged sword. I believe it works like this. If your CV comes across my desk and it doesn't have any experience on it, then I'm thinking, how long is it going to take me to train you?
Yep.
To get you up to the skills so that I can leave you alone and you can do your job where I don't have two jobs. One is doing my job, the other one is watching you. So there is experience. Would you develop that if you were working? Of course you would, but we're all time conscious. You know, and that's why we look for great balance in academic experience and personality, because you're not only working with the athletes, mate, you got to work with me. Right? And if your main skill is pissing me off, then it's not going to be a very good day for either.
No.
So you've got this dynamic, and I find that when I'm looking at CVs and I'm looking at interns and people who mate, I've trained tons of them. Like, I got one now. I got one guy who started with me and worked away, and he's now my operator. He's the head of performance over at Parrot. He's kicking my ass.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yep.
So there's always that process. So you've got to get experience. Like I did. I went and worked for a rugby club 3 days a week plus game days. And I didn't get paid, but geez, I got wealthy. Yeah. I got real wealth.
And that's what it's about, isn't it, too? There's two types of wealth, isn't there?
Oh, look, absolutely. And I think, like I said, on one of my LinkedIn posts, that, you know, I got a great mate, and I'll never forget, Kevin, and he just said to me, he said, Donny, your salary and your wage, that's what you eat, mate. You eat and live off that. Yeah. And he goes, and your wealth, that's extraneous. That's outside everything you're doing, and that's building up over here. And I absolutely believe that's what happened. Yeah, that's how I got to where I am today, was all that work that I was doing. But then that starts people talking. I was getting results. You got to get results. Yep. You have to get results. Are they results on the field? Possibly not, but you got to get results with the athlete, and you got to get results with who you are and how you apply yourself, and get people to trust you. Because the thing that goes with that, Greg, one, people, they don't quite understand what valued volunteering is.
Yep.
That's where you actually set down how you're going to volunteer. Here's my times I can come. This is what I can do for you. This is how long I can do it for. Like you show them. I'm not just going to wander in here and walk around and have you do everything for me. Here, I've got a plan. Here it is. Yep. If this doesn't fit with your plan, you can adjust this plan, but I'd love to work here with you. And that's one. The second thing is that, with people when they're volunteering is don't be taken advantage of. Don't go into places making people's coffee and being the gopher and not getting feedback and not having a process and not having a routine, not having a schedule, being involved with conversations and coaches and development, where it's necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you to ensure that the time that you're somewhere is valuable time and it's well spent and that you're getting something back from it. And the best way to show them that is to journal that. You keep your own task book, keep your own journal, and then you grab that head of performance or whoever's in charge of you, your supervisor, and you say, have you got 5 minutes? Just have a look. This is what I've done this week. This is what I've looked at, blah, blah, blah. You just got to be, that's who you got to be, because someone like me is looking at you and thinking, gee, he's a smart operator. This is a smart operator I've got here. I see a place for you here. So that's volunteering and interns and that coming in. The second thing that I believe is really important is that people like myself and other heads of performance, we should be educating our organizations that we need people in these units. We can't do all these jobs with just 2 or 3 people and be selfish and try and hold everything together. What we need to do is we need to help that system grow. We need to help that, those units develop. So, for example, I have a unit, I have interns, but they're from universities. So they're in a place, they work in other areas, other places, but they do the research and the work for us, but it's part of their degree. Mm-hmm. So that's that. Then we have, a specialist, a speed specialist, a rehab specialist. We bring in different consultants to do things. Now, what we're trying to teach our organization is not to spend more money, but to recognize that, it takes a collection of skills and people to get the best result out of your athletes and indeed the team and then into a competitive state. So I think there's work to be done on both sides, but for graduates coming out, they're going to say, oh, don't say get experience. Well, I ask you the question, do you want me to look at your academic record and then decide whether you can go upstairs and run my anaerobic threshold session with 13 of my guys on watt bikes and assault bikes, and I can trust you to do that, because I do not see anything here that tells me that you will even be able to relate to those.
This podcast is brought to you by Hydroxy Burn Shred. Get in the fat burning zone, both physically and mentally, with this potent combination of thermogenic fat burners and mood boosting nootropic ingredients. Scientifically designed to help you reach your weight loss goals, destroy stubborn fat cells, speed metabolism, boost energy, and improve your mood. With an industry leading 4 grams of acetyl L-carnitine plus green tea extract, guarana, and hydroxycitric acid, Hydroxy Burn Shred will take your training and weight loss journey to a whole new level.
So, mate, for these people coming out of uni at the moment, is there any organisation they can join that helps seed them with people like yourself? Is there?
Yeah, look, the universities usually do it.
Yeah, okay.
ASCA, the ASCA, Australian Strength and Conditioning Association, they definitely have a process within their organisation where they can send you out as you're getting qualified and put you with coaches like myself or different coaches if we have space where we are. There's always, here's the thing, one of the barriers that a lot of graduates will put in front of themselves is wanting to start at the elite. I mean, mate, get down the road and find your local club, cricket, soccer, whatever it is, rugby, and offer to periodise for them for a year.
Yep.
Periodise them and show them, because that's how I did it. Because the way how did I get to stand in front of Des Hasler? I wasn't writing them letters every day, I'll tell you that.
Yep.
It was because I was doing things and I was active and I was training. Man, I was training people's kids and they go and talk about it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Businesses started talking about it. And other coaches started talking about, oh, you got to get this guy in. And then the next thing you know, everything works around. Nobody ever asked me to see my qualifications.
Yeah.
You got to have them, because nowadays it's such a litigious sort of world. It's funny because you could call me a hypocrite, because way before I had a head of strength and conditioning position where I was in charge of units, way before I got academically qualified in terms of tertiary.
Yeah.
And so you could call me a hypocrite if I look at things and say, look, you need to have this and this. But I'll tell you one thing it tells me. If I see somebody who has a degree or course or studies or certificates, it shows me that they have a work ethic. It shows me they can complete tasks. It shows me that they have discipline and they can get to the end of something and they can complete. And that's really important.
Never better said, mate.
Different levels is one thing. That's something something else. That's up to you. But then I don't have to worry about that. Now all I need to worry about is how do you operate? Where can I use you? And will it be efficient to my system? So when I see stuff coming out and people have extensive backgrounds in schools, especially working with kids, if you can work with kids, man, you can work with anyone.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say, don't be picky, man. Don't go out there and think, if I'm not working for South Sydney or the Sea Eagles or the Roosters, I'm not applying my skills. I'm not being able to exercise my advanced knowledge. That knowledge is not, advanced knowledge is not for advanced people. Advanced knowledge is to be shared amongst the grassroots so that we can build and strengthen the base and foundation of our athletes when they're kids.
I love that.
So get out there and join up with clubs and help them develop. Man, I'm promising you, it'll grow depending on how you present yourself and set up your volunteer placement. You should do it yourself.
Yeah, nice. And I guess extending on from that, like we look at, you did some one-on-one, then you did some aerobics, as you said, then you did the S&C, then you became the head of I'm just picturing you in aerobics gear, mate. It's really bad, actually.
Hopper.
I bet you were awesome too. Like you would have been fucking awesome in aerobics.
I tell you, I was just, tailor-made.
Yeah, exactly. But these days, you're about leadership, team building and work culture. So that education, that process, like you got these young students going, I can't get a start. Well, you've moved into these new areas too. And like no one gave you a start. So how did that work for you? Like obviously you've got a group of men in because you've gone down the team sport aspect, but the leadership, team building and work culture, where did that come into your life? And at what time through your coaching career do you think that's where I need to focus on?
Look, as you said, Greg, as you move through from strength and conditioning and you move through the different units and that time that you have with athletes and that time that you have with coaching crews, as that builds up, you accumulate these skills and vision and experience that allows you to see deeper into that athlete or into that organization than what's in front of you, lifting a bar or doing a sprint. Or just to put it in perspective, sometimes we've lost more players in our game to life conditions, life problems than injuries in sport.
Yeah, well put.
Players have been taken out of the game for longer, not because of the sport, but because of something that's in their life. One of the things that's really evident in great coaching, from the head coaches and the coaching crews around us at the moment, is their availability to their players, which means there's more exposure.
Yep.
And it's their ability to actually read their players a lot better. So when you become a head of performance, you are now overseeing different areas of the physical development, and that is related absolutely to the mental welfare and where the men are, because you just can't, anybody in any walk of life can't apply themselves all the time to what they're doing really efficiently, effectively when there's other things happening, in the back of the head, good or bad.
Yep.
But what we do is with what I've been able to do is I've been able to study, and I did a master's in sport coaching with Masters of Education in Sports Coaching. I learned a tremendous amount about pedagogy, which is the art of learning and how people take information. Well, College Global, I've been in there for maybe nearly 8 years now, working with coaches, working with athletes around well-being, what that is, and mentoring and how to communicate and get the best out of your athletes and get the best out of your coaches. So by the time you get to a position like the head of performance, you become this conduit between the boss, the organization, or your staff, and then the athlete, and then you become a finer conduit from coach to coach, up and down. You really are this hub of links and communication. And it was a very natural evolution for me after this will be my 16th or 17th season as a head of performance this year. And, it was a natural progression for me. It's a progression that students should think about now as a graduate coming out, going to get your experience, putting yourself out there, getting a job, wherever that may be, getting exposure to all the different modalities of training so that you're competent with all of them, and then getting a really good understanding and education in the softer skills of the psychology of communication. And that way you're able to grow and develop and step through and become more, what's the word? You just got more to offer.
Complete.
Yeah, way more to offer, so that when someone looks at you, they get a multitude of skills out of you, and they're all quality skills.
So, Donny, if somebody had finished university and you mentioned Well College Global, is that where you're a thought leader? Yeah.
I am.
If there's two resumes in front of you and they've both done sports science, both got great academic records, both played with a local football club, and one of them's gone and done that the Well College Global type of course that you're talking about, where you're talking more about people versus what's happening inside a human? Which resume do you pick?
Well, look, that one gets more, not because it's well, but any of the colleges that work in the human sciences, that one's going to get more of my attention.
Yeah.
Because what I'm thinking, I'm thinking that I'll have a person here who's got a lot more psychological flexibility, somebody who could perhaps be better at connecting.
Yes.
So I'm looking for that little extra contact. And at the same time, I'm ensuring that, as you said, that's if everything is equal on there.
Yeah, exactly.
If they're great at applying their job and I can see they've got all these results, well, that tells me inadvertently that they have a very good communication process about them, because I can see the results there. But if they are the same and they've got the same results, but this person has gone out and done that extra bit of study around human beings, communication, psychology of learning, and connection, then they're going to get the start.
Nice. And mate, why did you pick Well College Global? What was it about that you liked?
They used to be Cadence Health. The thing I liked, what I wanted to do, and this will sound strange because I've spent my whole life coaching. Right? Yep. But what I want to do now at the age of 54, I'll be this year, and I chose that college because I want to move into the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, because I want to put myself in a position where I can coach anyone from anywhere.
Okay.
So at the moment, I specialize in leadership, business, corporate stuff, athletes, elite athletes. That's what I specialize in. If you want something done, if you want somebody changed, the thing that interests me the most now is habit change, habit formations, helping people move past things, helping people pull that from themselves. So I want to put myself in a position where you don't tell me what that person does, because it doesn't matter. You just tell me the person needs a coach, and I can go. And it doesn't matter what they do for a living, where they've been. And look, just before we move on from that, we have to really make clear the difference between coaching, mentoring. If you go somewhere and you're looking for very specific healthcare, because they're all different. So we're not counselors. Counselors, so coaches will have academic behind them and experience and certification. Mentors generally have to have experience in what it is they're mentoring. Otherwise, they can't share that. It's life experience. Somebody comes to you, I want to be like you. I want to experience that. The mentor has been there, and that's why the mentoring is so strong. I know what that feels like. And then if you're going into counselling, well, then they're usually clinically trained, so they have degrees in health. So knowing the difference between the three, and what I'd like to be is I want to be that coach who can coach anybody, anywhere, under any condition, and I'll use my referral service if there's anything specific. And
you've touched on a good point there. Like, part of the skills of being, the head of performance is having that referral group, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have. One of the best things is I boast this. I've got this unit around me now. I tell you, they're intelligent. They're great to work with. Great operators, and they have tremendous work ethic. And so going to work every day for me, you have your tough days like we're having at the moment, but you just know that everybody is so capable. And what you're talking about there is just knowing how to connect with each of those coaches and have them come to work, know that they are appreciated, and know that the work they're doing is very valuable and has been utilized. And that's all about communicating with them all the time and giving feedback, honest feedback, but feedback and solution.
Yeah, nice. Moving forward, you want to be that coach that can do anyone, is what you just explained. Where does that put you with your team sports in the future? Can you do both of those together, or is that like there's a disconnection time at some level where someone gets to have a crack at your spot? Is this how it works, or is it, because obviously you as a human performance coach, when your time is, your hours, everything. You've got that backwards. You don't need anyone to tell you what to do there. So you have time when you know time, you have time.
Yeah.
So for you, is this something that is, hey, I peel off from sport and this is what I'm going to do in the future, or is this as it happens?
Yes, there is a time when I will move out of the head of performance role. Yep. And like these tights are starting to ride up now. I just can't wear these tights all the time, mate. They're just But the good thing there is that, once again, with what I think I've been really fortunate with is that over the last 15 years, I've been able to evolve and learn from all the different staff members I've had. For example, I have a sports scientist who just got his doctorate working with me now, Mark Booth. I've learned more from Mark in the last 2 years, just having conversations about sports science and becoming current, than I ever learned, in the previous. And the reason being is because, I feel comfortable talking with him about it and evolving, learning from your people around you, that's what keeps you alive, mate.
Yeah.
It honestly does. That's what gives you that real desire. I talk to my interns and they're fantastic, and I say, oh, geez, what's the latest on this? And can you find this? And they're so eager and they just go boom, boom, boom. And then you share it with them. You don't just take it.
Yep.
So yes, there is a time where I believe that I would like to step out of the performance and work more in not even the corporate, just where I was needed. I have where I am now, I run a course with athletes, and Sean Kenny Dow is one of my graduates there. And I've got graduates in a lot of other sports, and I've got a few NRL players still going through it. And that's a wellbeing coaching and mentoring course.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that as I roll forward, I can produce a service where these players and athletes are available to go into clubs or any organization and help those players come through their careers.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there's a lot of things we forget about with young players. It's not only about education. It's about getting through each day. So many people don't understand, and I don't want to suddenly throw out a BSc plug, but this is something that we're really passionate about. My philosophy in my training group with all my staff and everybody is we work from session to session. We want to put the best athletes, the top athletes in the squad on the training paddock or in the gym at every single session. Hence, that's why we're so big on our supplementation program, on how we rejuvenate, how we re-energize. We're very particular about the energy systems that we deplete. We know them and we know how to replenish them. Hence, we use your products. You know that I'm always ringing you up and asking for more. more. I know I'm way over budget, but just got to smile and take it on the chin.
Exactly right.
The thing is that, human beings, right, they have a finite amount of energy because we have a finite system, with phosphate, anaerobic, aerobic, whatever it is, it depletes if you use it. So in sports sciences and at the elite level, we know exactly how long and what it takes to deplete that. And we know exactly how to replenish it. Yeah. People just generally in life, they play around a little bit until they find what that is. Or if they're smart, they'll go to good educational websites or good educational people and they'll learn that. But our young athletes, we forget. We deplete them all day, then we train them, then we push them, then we make them watch video, then we get them to learn all the cognitive things about the game, then we push them, and then we empty them, then we recover them, then we send them home. We do it every fucking day. Yep. Day in, day out. And that's where I believe the mentoring and the coaching for young athletes is making them aware where they are, what's happening, why it's happening, and why they feel the way they feel. Why do I feel, well, I think I'm getting ahead and then I'm always, struggling at training. Yep. It's because we keep turning it up, mate. So when we use mentors, and that's what I would like to do, get all my coaching mentors and that out of Well College and put them into places where they can help athletes learn about that.
Man, that's awesome. If somebody's interested in taking up that course, where do they go?
They just go to wellcollegeglobal.com.
.com.
It's right there. Yep. It's all the courses are there, and they can dive in there, mate.
Perfect. I've really enjoyed this chat. Is there anything you want to add to anyone inspired athlete, coach, individual? Like you're never short of a word when we talk about a topic, and I just think you've got a little bit more to give. Let's hear it.
Look, the only thing I'll say is this: the SNC in the performance industry is fucking great.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
I've only had 2 jobs in my whole life. I was in the military and I've done this. Yeah. Now, all I can say is this will sound corny as hell, but this is how you do it. Put your best foot forward. That's all you've got to do. Every time you turn up somewhere, just bring your good stuff with you. And don't underestimate the power of exposure to the people in your environment, because right now there's a lot of changes happening even in the NRL, and there are people out there now thinking about who do I trust, who worked well, who fits with the men, who fits with other coaches, who do I like having coffee with, all these things. And then there's this other group of people really close to them that no one knows about who say, oh, have you heard of this? Have you seen this guy? I always saw this guy. You know what? My mate's son is trained by this guy. He's got such a great manner. This girl is great with sports sciences. Every time you go out there, every time you're moving around, like I said, that's how I did it. Never shown a CV, never had to. Yeah. Because people grabbed me, and it's because by word of mouth, that's how it got around. Your deeds will show, what you're capable of. Keep your manners. Be a nice guy like me. Always smile.
I love that. I truly, truly love that. Mate, I can't thank you enough for coming on board. Like you said, since 2005, it's a long time to work next to someone in teams that are both, like obviously a lot of our success in teams has been with you wanting our stuff at teams as well. So from Body Science, we appreciate that and thank you on that as well.
Oh, look, but before you go though, Greg, it was quite funny. I still do when I'm not in the bubble, corporate speaking and that. And one of the things I'll never forget said to me, Donny, you've got to say that you're with BSC because they're your sponsor. That's what they said to me, And I said, you know what? You're quite correct. You are quite correct. And I'll tell you why. You see, I said, because right now it's 2018 and they've been my sponsor since 2005, mate.
Yep.
And I've never failed a drug test. And I've always won, where I've needed my athlete, I've always won those battles with weight loss, weight gain, or whatever. So what you're saying to an extent is true, but you ask yourself why I'm still with them after all these years and we've got a few runs on the board to show. And then you ask me why I would step away. Because the thing is that when all the stuff, when all the crap, when everything happened, and I remember those years clearly, but I remember BSC, instead of whinging, I remember you guys immediately started sending me messages telling me about changes you were going to make to your products and your product testing because you knew that it was a time to get on the front foot and do the right things and make everyone feel safe and make all your clients feel, very confident with the product. So, I wouldn't be giving yourselves a soft touch here, mate. That's why BSC is strong and it's leading and why it keeps people like myself and all these NRL sides on side because you do the right thing, great support. And, that's all you can ask for. And especially in the supplementation world, and I'll just say it, mate, there is no more reliable. So you guys are worth every bit of support that you get from any of us.
Mate, you're a legend. I think that's probably the best exit to a podcast I've ever heard, personally, just personally. But mate, thanks heaps for coming on board. Look forward to catching up soon and talking about some new product development and where you guys need to go and what's changed and where we're at. And it's always good to have those sessions together and maybe get a beer at the end of it.
Absolutely. Have you got that one you told me you were working on for height?
No, sorry. Maybe
the other one because I'm getting shorter.
Oh, that's gold. I love it. Anyone that wants to catch up on you, what's your Insta account, mate?
Actually, Sport Life Mentor. That's me.
So just one word?
One word.
Yep. What are you on LinkedIn? Because you're pretty active on LinkedIn too for those people out there that really want to understand how business works.
I think I'm just Donny Singe or Don Singe.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you're Donny double NY. Is that right?
Why don't you just give out your personal phone number because then you can just pass it through to me because you and I, you always pick up your phone when I call you. So
one of us has to.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, mate. Thanks for coming on board. Catch you soon.
You're very welcome.
Today's podcast was brought to you by our partners in Fit, Happy and Healthy, ASN, Nutrition Warehouse, DY Discount Vitamins, Fat Burners Only, Evelyn Faye, Mr. Supplement, or find a retailer online at bodyscience.com.au/retailers.